Hello! Welcome to my first ever YouTube video. I've been wanting to have a YouTube channel for the longest, and I've also been working on this very first video for the longest. But it's finally done. If you're watching this, it means that I'm finally done with the video. Hopefully. So, I finally finished sewing my dream summer wardrobe just a few days ago. But it's October, so if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, you may have noticed that summer is, well, very much over. And no, I do not live in the Southern Hemisphere. That would be a great excuse, but it's not the case. So why am I sewing summer clothes in the middle of October? Basically, because it just took me a lot longer than what I was expecting. I started in the end of the summer, it was August, so I still had a whole month of summer left. It still made sense. I also thought it would only take me a week. 5 sewing projects? 5 days? It took me a month and a half, but it's alright. I saw everyone sewing their dream summer wardrobe back in the spring, and while I was making this video, I saw everyone working on their fall dream wardrobe. And by the time I post this, they might be working on their dream winter wardrobe. On the bright side, I may be late for summer 2024, but I'm super early for summer 2025. The question is, what did I do that took me so long? And the answer is nothing in particular. I'm just very slow and inexperienced. I had only used the sewing machine a few times before, but only for easy stuff like resizing a duvet cover or hemming a shirt. Nothing complicated. This was the first time that I was doing something a bit more complex. So what I did is taking 5 old clothing items and I turned them into something new. To make my job easier, I started with the easiest projects and then worked my way up to the most complicated one. You'll see that I took it up a notch in every single project. Or at least I tried. I may have used the word thrift flip in the title of the video, but the clothes that I used were not thrifted. They were old though, mostly hand-me-downs. I've been collecting old clothes, mostly hand-me-downs, for the last few years in the hopes that one day I would learn to sew and I would turn them into something beautiful or something that at least fits me. I've finally done it. Well, at least with 5 clothing items. I still have dozens more to work with. Maybe future projects, maybe future videos, who knows. So I picked these 5 items in particular because I was really inspired by the coconut girl trend that started a few summers ago. And thanks to Pinterest, I found a few outfits, a few clothes that inspired me to use the fabric that I already have and turn them into something coconut girl inspired. If you haven't heard about the coconut girl aesthetic, it's basically a fashion related trend that started, I believe, in the summer of 2021, but it's been coming back every summer since. In my opinion, this trend lives more on the internet than in real life, meaning I haven't seen anyone wearing it in person, and I also don't usually see it in stores, but I am obsessed with it. It's fun, it's colorful, it's very Y2K, which I love, and it also reminds me of my childhood. And talking about childhood, you will see that I'm gonna use a bunch of clothes and jewelry from my childhood in the final reveal outfits. The YouTube channel Modern Girls, I think it's pronounced, has a perfect video describing this coconut girl trend in detail. In my opinion, the defining features of this trend are the colors, bright colors like pinks and oranges, blues and greens, but also some purples and yellows. It's also full of flowers and tropical plants, especially the hibiscus flower. Also beaded jewelry and temporary tattoos, and things like seashells, dolphins, butterflies, anything that has to do with the ocean actually, like turtles, starfish, fish in general, they are everywhere. And of course, clothes that are usually worn in the summer, especially if they are Y2K, like halter tops, graphic t-shirts, baby tees, skirts, wrap skirts, mini skirts, maxi skirts, short dresses, bikinis, and flip-flops, to name a few. Now let's finally start with project number 1. So the first item I chose was this halter top. It was a hand-me-down. I'm not sure if it was originally supposed to be a halter top or if it's just a dress for a child. I really liked the colors and the patterns. The only problem was the length. It was a bit too long. So the only thing I had to do was crop it and do another hem. Very straightforward. The first step was figuring out how long I wanted the top to be. I paid close attention to what the original hem looked like so I could replicate it. And then I marked 2 lines, the lower one as a guide for where I was supposed to cut, and the other one to mark where the bottom of the new hem was supposed to be. I still, however, got it wrong when I was hemming it, and I placed the top of the hem on the lower line instead of the bottom of the hem. But in the end, it didn't really matter. The top was just a little bit longer than what I was planning for. I pressed the seams before sewing, and I chose a thread that was almost the same color as the original. I was really lucky. By the end, I was left with 2 long rectangles of fabrics, and I decided to make scrunchies out of them. Scrunchies and tote bags are the projects that usually get recommended to beginners who want to start learning to sew, but I've been avoiding those projects because they just don't motivate me. But now I finally had the right opportunity to make them, and it turns out they're not as easy as I thought they would be, but it could also be because I didn't have enough fabric. So on to item number 2. This shirt I'm pretty sure that I owned back when I was in elementary school, so it must have been sitting on a closet for over a decade now. When I found it, I immediately thought about turning it into a baby tee, since it's something that I've already done a couple times before with older t-shirts. I was also very inspired by this outfit I saw on Pinterest because she's also wearing a green baby tee. The process was very simple. First, I cropped and hemmed the shirt following the same steps as in project number 1. And I almost made the same mistake as in project number 1, but I was able to fix it. In this shirt, the hem was sewn with an overlocking machine, which I don't own, so I decided to just do a zigzag stitch. I also didn't have thread in the same color of the shirt, but I did find this turquoise thread that was pretty close to the color of the print in the front of the shirt. When I tried the shirt on, I noticed that the bottom of the shirt was flaring out in a weird way, and I also realized that I had used a straight stitch because I had forgotten that I was gonna do a zigzag stitch. So I undid the whole seam, and I also marked where I had to take in the sides of the shirt. I sewed that with a straight stitch, and then I sewed the hem again, but this time with a zigzag stitch. I also finished the raw edges with a zigzag stitch, which is something that I had tried to do before and it never worked, but this time it worked, and I'm really happy that I finally learned that skill. Project number 3 is where things started to get a little bit more complicated. I chose these jeans that are way too big on me. They are also hand-me-downs, and my plan was to turn them into a pleated skirt. I had seen a few tutorials on Pinterest and YouTube, and I was really inspired by it, and I wanted to have my own. The first thing I did was cutting the legs out. I was gonna use that part of the pants to get the fabric to make the pleats of the skirt. The next thing I had to do was downsizing the waist of the pants since they were so big on me. But if you use jeans that already fit you, this step is basically unnecessary. To do it, I first mark where to take in the sides, then I removed all the belt loops and the whole waistband so I could sew the nude side seams. And then I had to reattach the waistband, and then I had to individually sew every single belt loop. Since I had to cut out a part of the waistband, I chose the part where the button was attached, and then later on I had to attach a new button. Luckily, I found an exact copy of that button in the collection of buttons that my mom and I have. These buttons are basically the spare buttons that come with jeans and jackets. To be honest, I think I did a pretty okay job downsizing the jeans. However, they did turn out a little bit bigger than what I was expecting. I did want them to be a bit more high-waisted, but it didn't really matter in the end. The next thing I did was separating the panels that make up every single leg. So in total I had 4, 2 for each leg. Then I attached all the panels together, forming a loop. That was a mistake. I wasn't supposed to have a loop, just a very long panel, but I fixed it really quickly. I just ripped one of the seams open and that was it. I hemmed the bottom of the very long panel, and then I made the pleats. For the pleats, I liked both knife pleats and box pleats. I ended up choosing box pleats, but the process is very similar for both of them. To make all the pleats the same size, I did cut out a piece of cardboard and I used that as a template. I sew and ironed the pleats and then I sewed them to the rest of the skirt facing right sides together. To hide the raw edges, I just fold them and sew them together somehow, creating this monstrosity. I also cut out a long strip of fabric, then I folded it and I sewed it to the point where both the waist part of the skirt and the pleats join, so it would make it look a little bit more interesting. It's something that I had seen before in some other skirts and I just copied it. Once I finished the skirt, I tried it on and I didn't really like how much the pleats would flare out, so I decided to hand sew individually every single pleat to join them together so it wouldn't pop out as much. And that might have been a mistake, but I'll tell you more about it in the reveal. On to project number 4. This wrap skirt, I believe, is a beach cover-up. It's also a hand-me-down, but I don't remember who I got it from. There's nothing inherently wrong about it, it's just that it's a little bit boring. The shape, it's boring, it's not really flattering, at least not on me. But when I saw this top on Pinterest, I immediately knew what to do with that fabric. Doesn't this pattern remind you of the SpongeBob time cards? I simply love it. I didn't have a pattern for this one. I should have gone with a pattern, but after seeing many tutorials on YouTube, I decided that I was just going to self-draft this thing, even though I had absolutely no experience. And as a result, it was of course pretty frustrating. I think I should have gone with a pattern. It would have made it a bit easier and maybe even more enjoyable. But I have to admit, it did feel great when I finished it because I realized that I had made it completely on my own and that felt great. But in the future, I'll practice a bit more with patterns before trying crazy things like self-drafting or creating my own pattern. I started by taking some measurements. Then I transferred the measurements to an ancient old, slightly yellow bed sheets that I found around the house so I could make a mock-up. I traced with the pen the shape of the cups, which have a long strap at the top, and also the waistband, which is just a long rectangle. I cut every piece twice so that I would also have a lining, and I sewed everything together. The biggest problem I encountered was figuring out where to place the pleats that the cup is supposed to have. These pleats help the cup to have a more round shape instead of just being a flat piece of fabric that lays flat against the chest. I had to figure out the amount, the placing, the shape, the size, and the direction of every single pleat, and that took me many tries. I did note down every single try so I could figure out which one was the right one and I could replicate it on the final product. Another big problem that I encountered was figuring out how to close the garment. First I thought about using buttons or snap buttons, but they would just not stand the amount of tension that the fabric was holding. They would just pop open, so it was not practical. It's just that the top has to be super tight so it doesn't fall off, and therefore there's a lot of tension that the closure needs to stand. And then I decided to use lacing, like in a corset, but the problem was that I couldn't find eyelets or the little tool to install them anywhere, so I had to order them online, and it took a few days for them to arrive. Once I was happy with the mock-up, the rest of the process was really easy. I had made a pattern on some baking paper following the mock-up. I used the pattern to cut out the final pieces from both the wrap skirt fabric and some much nicer looking bed sheets for the lining. I sew the lining to the outer fabric, and then I attach the cups to the waistband, also always facing right sides together. And I also added a piece of thicker fabric to both ends of the waistband so it would make it a bit sturdier. I attached it like sandwich between the outer fabric and the lining. I think that's what's called interfacing, but I'm not sure. And by the way, the fabric that I used was some leftover denim from project number 3. The final steps were attaching snap buttons to the neck strap, like this one, and also installing some grommets into the waistband. And now it's time for the last one. For this project, I used this children's dress that is also a hand-me-down, and it's obviously too short on me, so I wore it with gray shorts underneath. My plan was to turn this dress into this specific top that I saw on Pinterest. And for this top, I couldn't find any patterns or tutorials on the internet, so I decided to make it up myself. Yes, again, very delusional. So, as in project number 4, I had to basically figure it out by myself. So, my personal advice, use the pattern. Did I follow my advice? No. This time, instead of taking measurements, I drafted the pattern directly onto my body. For that, I wrapped my chest in plastic and then in tape. I didn't do it properly. As you can see, it's laying a bit flat on my chest instead of taking the round shape of the cups. What I should have done is watch a tutorial, which I did, but only after I had finished doing the pattern. It didn't really matter in the end, but if you're doing something like a bra or a corset, it's a lot more important. I traced the shape of the different panels onto the tape. Then I cut myself out of it, and then I touched up the sketch and cut out the different panels of the pattern. And then I traced the pattern on the same old bedsheet that I used in the last project to make another mock-up. The only complicated part of this project was figuring out how to make these 2 pleats that are in the bra part of the top. To be able to create these pleats, I had to add some extra fabric to the panels, and once it was folded, it had to have the same shape as the original, so it wouldn't mess with the curvature of the top of the cup. Then also the pleats of the 2 panels had to align perfectly, so it would create a straight line. And that took me a couple tries. The other difficulty was attaching an invisible zipper, not only because I hadn't attached a zipper in my life, but also because I had to make 4 different panels, 6 pieces of fabric if it counts the lining, all joined in the same invisible zipper. It was made even more difficult by the fact that I decided to reuse the bottom hem of the dress as the bottom hem of my top, because that also meant that I had to align perfectly the bottom of the 2 panels. The rest of the process was again tracing the pattern onto the both fabrics, the pink dress and the nicer bed sheets for the lining. I cut it out, I made the pleats for the center panels, and sewed all the panels together. I also made a strap by cutting out a rectangle of fabric, sewing it into a tube inside out, and turning it the right way. Then when I saw the lining to the outer fabric, I sandwiched the strap in between. Finally, I saw the bra part of the top to the bottom and struggled to attach the invisible zipper, and it was done. Before the reveal, I'm going to show you a little bonus project. The thing is, when I finished project number 3 and number 4, I was pretty burnt out, and so I decided that I was not going to make project number 5. I thought that 4 projects was not enough for a video, so I decided to show you a thrift flip that I did a year ago. It was also not technically a thrift flip because it was a hand-me-down, not a thrifted item. But when I finished project number 4, I was so happy and proud that I had done it all by myself that I decided to give project number 5 a try. The only thing I had to do to this dress was changing the elastic straps because they were really crunchy, and also mending a few holes in the seams. So after all, I ended up deciding to bring both of them to the final reveal photo shoot. By the way, I went to the beach in October for the photos, and I even got my feet wet in the sea. It was fine, it wasn't that cold, but it was really windy, so my hair was all over the place. I didn't do much to the top, but I'm really happy with it, and I actually got new accessories. That's really cool. For project number 1, I paired my new halter top and scrunchies with these hand-me-down blue sandals and an old dolphin necklace. I am really happy with how the shirt came out, although the zigzag stitching at the bottom of the hem is a bit wonky. Could have been a bit straighter, but it's alright. So for outfit number 2, I wore the shirt with these hand-me-down shorts. Also these thrifted shoes. I think they cost me 23 euros and I bought them this year. And this crochet bag I made myself. And then I also accessorized the outfit with another old dolphin necklace and 2 hibiscus flower claw clips. I'm not completely happy with how the skirt turned out. As I told you, I had hand sewn every single pleat together, and now I think I took it too far. Like, it has absolutely no volume, so maybe I should go back to it and unpick some of the seams. I wore my new denim skirt with 2 outfits. The first one is this one. I paired it with another baby tee that I made last year with a old t-shirt. Also this hand-me-down bag. These glasses that I found lying around my childhood bedroom. A beaded necklace that has a little seashell. And this dolphin bracelet. I'm really glad with how the top turned out. It's gorgeous. It's not the most comfortable though, but I love it. The only thing that bothers me a little bit is that the lining peeks out a little bit in some points. For the outfit number 4, I combined my new halter top with these pants I thrifted 1 or 2 years ago. They're in the same shoes as before, and a hand-me-down necklace with a seashell in the middle, and also the same hibiscus claw clips. I'm really happy with how this shirt turned out. I knew it was not gonna look exactly like the inspo picture because it's not the same fabric and it doesn't have the same pattern. The only mistakes that I made was placing the zipper a bit too low, but it's okay. I wore project number 5 with the skirt from project number 3. the same sandals, and this beautiful necklace that I got at a Ren Fair craft market a few years ago. Lastly, I wore this green dress with this seashell necklace and the bucket hat that I already own, and these brand new hand-me-down flip-flops. I am super happy with this dress. It's really cute, and also it's very, very comfortable since it's stretchy fabric, and I didn't do much to it, but it worked. So, completely happy. Overall, I'm really happy with the end results. It's true that there is a lot of room for improvement, but I also have to admit that I have learned many things with these projects. Like, for example, finishing seams with a zigzag stitch, sewing things that are curved, making box pleats, sewing an invisible zipper, changing the sewing machine pressing foot, sewing a lining, making eyelets, etc. And I also got a bunch of new clothes just by reusing something that I already had, and that's really cool. But now I'm definitely gonna take a break from sewing, so probably my next video will not be about clothes. But you'll have to stick around if you want to see what I'm gonna be making next. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's also the first time that I edit a video, so there will probably be a lot of room for improvement in that regard too. But I hope you enjoyed it. And that's all. Bye bye!